Are you a dad that's struggling with the perfect 2-hour miracle morning routine? Or are you a father that is struggling with a morning routine because your child wakes up early or your boss puts a meeting on your calendar earlier than expected? I'm sure a lot of you fall into this trap of trying to improve yourself as an individual while also trying to be the best dad that you can be. And oftentimes that starts with obviously the beginning of the day, right? So in this video, by the end of it, you'll have a 30 to 45-minute morning routine for busy dads that will actually stick. And this morning routine is going to be based around three key principles. One is going to be breath. The second is going to be self-reflection. And the last is going to be movement. The first thing I want to say is when it comes to morning routines, you have probably watched hundreds of videos about morning routines, and this is the 101st video. The difference between the other 100 in this video is I am a father who is actually involved day to day with work, with building a business, with parenting. And I know the struggle you face trying to be your best self as an individual while also taking care of children, while also being a good co parent, and so forth. So I have a lot of personal life experience in this field. And to be honest with you, the morning routine is something that is just hard to nail down. And the reason why it's hard to nail down is the 100 videos you've watched prior to this aren't really speaking to you as a father that is trying to be their best selves as an individual as well as a dad, right? Those videos you look at are essentially telling you based off of science, this is what you should do. Based off of their own experiences, this is what you should do. And the reality is, as much as we're all one, we're also equally different and unique, and we have different responsibilities and so forth. So the first thing I'll say is about this video is what I've learned for myself is a morning routine comes in waves and seasons, and it may look different as long as the core principles stay the same. So this is very important. Like, for example, in my life right now, I have mornings where I have to be out of my house by 4:45 so I can be at the boathouse rowing. I know, right? Who rows? I love it. But I have to be rowing by 5:15, 5:30. So those mornings, obviously, we know it's going to be pretty impossible for me to do my typical 30 to 45-minute lighting my incense and meditation and journaling routine. That's going to have to be cut short. So this is a season of life I'm in where 2 to 3 days a week, that looks different for me, right? When I have my kids with me, that's going to look different. When I'm working from home, that's going to look different. When I have to go into the office, that's going to look different, right? So I just want to preface this video by saying that take what I say, right, with and put it into your own world. Put it into your own responsibilities as a father. But the most important thing for you to know is this is the most important time for you to take care of yourself because it's the time that it's going to sound cliche, but it's a time that the world isn't asking a lot of you. The world is not demanding you to cook breakfast. The world is not demanding you to do a drop off. The world is not demanding you to look at Excel spreadsheets for 8 hours, right? This is truly the time where if you plan it correctly, you'll be able to do things that regulate your nervous system, that helps your physical well-being, and also helps you gain clarity and a better sense of self. So this is why the morning is actually really important. The main point for you to know is it's important, especially as a father, because the demands of the outside world has not fell upon you as of yet. They will in the next hour or two, right? But the demands are not there yet. And this time in the morning will help you prepare for those demands of being a father, of being a professional, of being a spouse, and so forth, right? So the first thing we're going to talk about is breath. Now, mind you, every single thing we talk about here is going to be something that you can do for 10 to 15 minutes. If your life allows you to do this longer on a daily basis or a few days during the week, then you can for sure stretch it and make these things longer as long as you find them to be enjoyable and sustainable for your life, right? So, like I mentioned, typically I would love to meditate. I would love to watch my breath for 30 to 45 minutes. Some days I'm allowed that, but some days it has to be 10 minutes. It has to be 15 minutes. So I want you to start at this baseline level. Now, if you're someone who has a deep mindfulness practice and you're listening to this video to gain some more insight and clarity, then, you know, apply what what resonates with you and let go what does not. But I really want to talk to those men, those fathers out there who truly know that it's been rough waking up after a long night of driving, waking up after a long night of work, and really trying to take care of yourself before you face the world. So part one is going to be breath. And the breath can look like many things, right? So the first thing I always say is you have to regulate your nervous system even before you sit down to do an official meditation session. When it comes to meditation, the key is to be relaxed. The key is to know that thoughts will come and thoughts will go. But if you're not in a state of relaxation prior to the thoughts coming and going, it's going to be a lot harder for you not to resonate so much with the thoughts that are coming and going. So when it comes to breath, I would always advise anyone to start off just with a couple minutes of box breathing. So that's just inhaling for 4 to 6 seconds, holding for 4 to 6 seconds, and exhaling for 4 to 6 seconds. You are regulating your nervous system. This could be 2 to 3 minutes. And then that's when you're now going to really step inside of the breathing practice. So that could be just mindful breathing for 10 minutes or so, just watching your breath, feeling it in and out, where it starts, where it ends. Does it get shorter when your mind thinks about other things? How does your body feel when you're breathing? You're just watching your breath for 10 minutes or so, right? The next thing I tend to do a lot is I visualize while I'm watching my breath. I'll visualize about the day that I have ahead, important projects I have at work, important projects I have for the business, important conversations I may have to have with one of my co-parents, important conversations I may have to have with a colleague at work, important conversations I have to have with my children, right? So these are things that I think about as I'm regulating my nervous system through the breath. Mindful breathing, I mean, you could literally Google mindful breathing and have a field day with all the benefits of mindful breathing. That's not what this video is about. This is about how you can quickly incorporate these things as a busy professional father. So the first thing I would say is definitely going to be breath. And when it comes to your breath, like I said, you can visualize, you can watch your breath go in and out for 10 minutes. And something else that I do is I oftentimes ponder, like, man, who am I? Right? I'll breathe and I'll just think to myself, who's the one breathing right now? Or who is the one that is thinking about this thing? And the more and more you do that consistently, you start to almost fall back into this. It's almost like this witness. And you start to realize, like, man, all the pressure I put on myself, it doesn't necessarily have to be that way because I am not identifying with this version of me. I'm more so identifying with the witness of me, the spiritual side of me. And that helps me with parenting. That helps me at work. That helps me in any type of relationships that I have outside of being a dad and an entrepreneur and a coworker, right? It helps me with all the relationship dynamics that I have outside of that as well. So breathing is the first one. The second one is going to be reflection. So when it comes to reflection, this is more so through writing, through journaling, and different ways that you can reflect through journaling. The first way I'm going to recommend to you is to look at my 365 Dad Mindful Fatherhood journal. And this journal has 365 prompts that you can use to help you build connections with your children. You can use to help you self-reflect. you can use to build community and just to be more mindful. So for example, I'm just going to turn to random prompts that I have in here, right? And I'll read them to you. So the first prompt for today says, growing up, could you openly communicate your feelings and needs to your father figure? Write about that experience, right? Growing up, how was it openly communicating your emotions and your feelings to your father? Because that clearly will have an impact on how you're able to do that with your children. The second thing is reflect on missed opportunities to bond with your parents. Do these memories help shape how you show up as a dad currently? Right? So these are just a couple examples of prompts in the 365 Dad Journal. But you can literally think of prompts for anything. You can think of prompts for what you have to do today. How can I show up my best version of myself at work today? How can I take care of myself today? What do I need to be the best version of myself today? The ton and tons of ways that you can respond to prompts when it comes to reflection. Another form of reflection when it comes to journaling is just free writing. I often do this. Sometimes I'll just write about what's on my mind. I'll write about projects that I got going on. I'll write about relationship dynamics that I may be struggling with in my personal life. I'll just write whatever comes to mind, and that's what I like to call free write. And the last one is I like to call this tough questions. So, in every moment of your life, no matter how happy you are, there's some things that occupy your mind more than others. And these are like maybe a tough conversation you have to have with somebody. Maybe something in your life right now is just kind of bothering you and you don't know how to approach it. It could be with another person. It could be an internal battle. So I like to call this asking tough questions. Ask the tough questions. One of my favorite tough questions I ask myself is, who do I still need to forgive? Right? I feel like any single person in the world can write that down and they'll have ways of expressing that on a piece of paper. Now, I feel like not one person in the world can hear that question and not have an answer for it. Right? So that's just an example of tough questions. So really quickly, just to go back over the reflection piece, you can do journal prompts. Obviously, I'm going to recommend my Mindful Dad Journal, the 365 Dad Journal for prompts. You can create your own prompts as well. You can free write, free stream of consciousness, what's going on your mind. And then lastly, you can ask yourself tough questions, whether that be around fatherhood, work, or other relationship dynamics. The last piece to this morning routine is going to be movement. This is incredibly important, right? So now I told you 10 to 15 minutes. Now, if you're somebody who, I have time to go to the gym a couple of days a week, 3 days a week, I can fit in an hour workout before I start my day, before the kids wake up. That's perfectly fine. Continue to do that, right? Or if you're like, you know what? I'm just struggling right now and I got to have a baseline. This is for you as well, right? So if you only have 15 minutes of movement, that's perfectly fine. That looks like doing some jumping jacks. That looks like doing some push-ups. Sometimes I'll put my yoga mat out and I'll just go to YouTube and I literally will type in 10 minutes beginner yoga. Tons of videos of people helping you do stretching and do some yoga in the morning time to kind of get your body going and get your body moving. You can do that. You can go outside and you can take a walk for 10 to 15 minutes. You can do squats. You can literally Google or chat GPT 15 minutes of physical movement in home, 15 minutes of physical movement outdoors. And by the end of the morning, right, you would have reflected on who you want to be. You would have reflected on how you want to show up in the space as a dad, in the space as a businessman. You would have reflected on how you want to breathe. You would have regulated your nervous system by breathing. You also would have helped your physical body by being physical. And you did all of this within 45 minutes. It doesn't have to take 3 hours. You've done all of this for yourself in 45 minutes before you got to make breakfast, before you got to get the kids ready, before you got to do drop off, before you got to take an hour commute to work. You've already taken care of yourself, right? So this is something that I would hope you can put into practice as soon as you can. And remember, 3 principles to having a good morning to take care of yourself: breath, reflection, movement. That simple. Some days, all of those things can take 2 hours. Some days they can take 20 minutes. Some days they can take 45 minutes. What really matters is that you are showing up for yourself consistently. It's not the time that matters, especially if you're in the beginning of these practices. What matters is that you're identifying as somebody that gets up and prioritizes their well-being despite all the worldly responsibilities that you'll have, after you finish that. Hopefully it made sense. If you are interested in hearing more ways to be a better individual while you strive to be a more mindful and connected father, I would heavily recommend subscribing to my newsletter and subscribing to this channel, as well as my podcast. All the links are in the description.